The Middle East is experiencing a series of unsettling events that have shaken Israel to its core. These prophetic occurrences have been described in recent reports from the country, and they're often seen as precursors to the end of the world. What do you think is happening in Israel? Why has it terrified religious people across the world? Well, if religion is to be believed, then the Bible provides an explanation for these events, explaining that Satan wants to thwart God's special plan and purposes for the nation of Israel. The Bible foretells that Israel will experience terrible fighting during the final days, known as the tribulation, the great regulation, and Jacob's sorrow. Prophecies about the future Jerusalem include the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, the construction of the Third Temple, and the Antichrist signing a 7-year peace treaty. Jewish leaders, such as Sennacherib king of Assyria, Hitler, Germany, and Rouhani, the president of Iran, all support this idea, but the actual persecution will last until Christ's second coming. The current turmoil in Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and Hezbollah are just a few of the many enemies who surround and harass Israel. However, what Israel is currently seeing in terms of antagonism and persecution is only a preview of what the end times offering is. In 1948, the year when Israel was restored as a nation, the most recent round of persecution began. Many people believe that the Arab-Israeli War in 1967 marked the start of the end times. But are the end times actually near us? While the developments in Israel may be an indication that the end is nearing, it's important to not let this information worry you. Jesus himself was the wisest person, and nobody will try to convince you otherwise. He said that wars and wars rumors should not be taken as a sign of the end, but rather a reminder that the end is not yet come. To appreciate the significance of the Third Temple, it is helpful to know about the past and significance of the previous 2 temples in Jerusalem. For example, the ruins of an ancient temple were discovered beneath a mosque's foundations following its collapse in 1927. Jews ritually immersed themselves in this during the time of the Second Temple before approaching the complex of the Temple Mount. The ancient temple on the hallowed Temple Mount in Jerusalem has been revealed through significant discoveries, which were kept secret in British archives to avoid upsetting Muslim authorities. Hindran, a Jewish legal and religious regulatory body, has taken necessary safety measures to restart temple services. Preparations for the temple services include creating a forest and focusing on agricultural requirements, as most sacrifices are associated with plant offerings grown throughout Israel. Rabbi Haim Richman, a member of the Sanhedrin, is leading the effort to bring back the famed red heifer to Israel, which some believe is a harbinger of the end times. However, the recent emergence of 5 red heifers in Israel has sparked debate worldwide, especially among Christians who adhere to biblical prophecy. Those heifers meet the qualifications for sacrifice specified in Numbers 19 of the Mosaic Law, which requires them to be red in color and spotless. Rumors have also been triggered by the advent of the red heifers in Israel. David of Israel, the monarch, told the prophet Nathan, was credited with building the first temple or other permanent structure devoted to the God of the Bible. However, God did not ask that they build a mass cedar dwelling for him, although God was pleased with David's request. Instead, God promised to build David a house, which meant that David's throne would be established permanently. Solomon, one of David's sons, carried out the promise that God had made to David regarding the building of the house of the Lord. The structure stood atop Jerusalem's Mount Moriah and became the center of religious worship throughout all of Israel once it was ultimately completed. Many people are curious about the Bible's likelihood of a third temple, even though the biblical writings weren't always as exact as we'd like them to be. 3 scriptural evidences indicate the presence of another temple, while the third one is purely symbolic. The first to show a real temple indicates that sacrifices will be offered once more. According to prophecy found in the book of Daniel, sacrifices ceasing after the age of man and an abomination of desolation will happen at the end times. Some think that the Jews will build another temple in Jerusalem prior to the second coming of Jesus. Some draw the conclusion that a temple will be constructed in connection with the altar or the sacrifices will be made. Jesus predicted that before his return, an abomination of desolation would be erected in the holy place just before the second coming of Jesus. The idea that Jews might build a third temple on the Temple Mount is currently shrouded in mystery and has become a major point of contention between Israelis and Arabs. The second temple in Jerusalem, located on the Temple Mount, is a holy site and another Muslim place of worship. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is situated atop the Temple Mount. which has been under dispute between the Palestinians and Israeli forces since 1967. Arabs are strongly opposed to the construction of a Jewish temple on this historically significant location. Muslims believe that Muhammad ascended to heaven from this precise site. However, it is possible that Jews may start making sacrifices on an altar before the building of a temple, much as they did before the building of the second temple. This was mentioned in the Bible. Ezekiel chapters 40 through 48 reveal that a temple will be built, but finding the precise instant when this occurs has proven difficult. Some argue that these chapters pertain to Solomon's temple or Herod's restoration of it, while others contend that Ezekiel's version of the temple, which led to the construction of the second temple, came directly from God. This interpretation is incorrect, as the historical fulfillments do not match the passages specific in Ezekiel chapters 40 through 48. The most likely argument is that these chapters portray the building of a temple for the nation of Israel, which will no longer be separated into two kingdoms during the millennium. The moment and location are when God will permanently reside among the children of Israel and pour out His Spirit on the house of Israel aren't mentioned. However, an additional indication that the millennium has begun includes the flow of healing waters from the temple and the change of Jerusalem's name to the Lord. Animal sacrifices seem to resume temporarily in the millennium, even though we are not told why they would come and use them for cooking. Everyone who makes the sacrifices are required to come take them and use them for cooking. They seem to happen at least temporarily and will be connected to a real temple. 5 red cows, certified by rabbis, arrived at Ben Gurion Airport, sparking debates on the prophetic significance of their appearance and whether we are hastily entering the third temple area in these final days. The book of Numbers describes how someone who is following Mosaic law must purify himself from the ashes of a red heifer. If the temple were to be rebuilt or fell from the sky, worship at the temple might be resumed right away. Given the presence of these heifers in Israel, the ashes of a red heifer are crucial for ritual cleansing, and many Jews see this as evidence that the redemption is imminent. Christians and Jews viewed Jesus' death on the cross as the last incomplete sacrifice necessary for their salvation. Their Temple Institute and Christian charity Bona Israel brought a candle to Israel, which is believed to be a sign of the end of the world or the start of the Messianic era. The New Testament links to the construction of the third temple to the appearance of the man of perdition, also known as the Antichrist. The effects of Armageddon, or the end of the world, and its impending devastation are major contributors to the anxiety it inspires. Recent events in Israel raise concerns among religious people about whether the world is coming to an end and if this is the fulfillment of the entire prophecy. The priest will witness the complete burning of the heifer, including the hide, flesh, blood, and intestines. He must then get dressed and take a shower before returning to the camp. The priest will not be clean for the rest of the day until midnight, and even the person who burns the heifer will be seen as filthy. The Israelites are instructed to store these materials for use in ritual baths and sacrifices intended to atone for sin. They assert that a person's character may be assessed based on the people they associate with. In conclusion, the recent events in Israel raise concerns among religious people about whether the world is coming to an end and if the third temple should be built. What do you think? Do you think the third temple will be built in your lifetime? Do you think the end times are near? Let us know in the comments section below.